All right. So welcome to all of you. We are live. I see a couple of people. I saw some people that were joining and then getting out. Maybe they have some connection problems. And as you see, there are still people coming. So we will just start because also from a time perspective, we don't want to make it too late as well. So again, I welcome all of you. Today we going to highlight what Gulf SQAS is and mainly focusing on the changes that happened throughout 2025. And this day it is really a focus on the LSPs. So how LSPs can easily win the bidding process. What really means that how can you make your EHSSQ system more solid and more agile in these times, and specifically being more appealing for the petrochemical industry. How can you win the contracts with them, basically? But of course, before that, it would be very interesting for LSPs to at least make sure that they run an environmental or a health and safety process, but also an environmental friendly process for all the neighbors. And as you know, Gulf SQS stands for Responsible Care for Logistics, which really means taking care, being responsible. And the LSPs are really looking at whatever is outside the fence, right? So whatever is outside the fence is where Gulf SQS plays a major role. And if LSPs implement Gulf SQS, they will easily also translate that to their own facilities and to their own operations. So it is great that you are here today. And I can guarantee you that if you implement Gulf SQS in the right way, that it will change your operation and it will make you appealing not only for the petrochemical industry, but for the whole of the GCC. And it's also adding value towards the country that you're living in. We know that people are coming from different countries, so I will welcome everyone who is actually coming out of the GCC, but of course also if there is anybody from Europe or any other area, we're most happily welcoming you to this session. So about this webinar, so as you've seen in an announcement, we aim specifically this webinar for LSPs, Logistic Service Providers, but petrochemical manufacturers, also EHS managers, people that want to implement the system or just want to have an additional knowledge, or just to expand on their understanding of this program. They are more than welcome. Today we have a few good or people on around the table that have lengthy experience with Gulf SQS, and I'm very fortunate to have these two gentlemen with us today, who are playing a major role in Gulf SQS in the GCC region. First of all, I would like to introduce Mohammed Siraj from the GPCA. And maybe, Mohammed, you can just introduce you with a few words so that people know who you are and understand where you're coming from.
Thank you very much, Amador, and I appreciate the introduction and giving us the opportunity today to discuss this very important topic. Assalamu alaikum to everyone joining us. Thank you for your commitment and making it. I am Mohammed Siraj, as you highlighted. I'm working with the Gulf Petrochemical and Chemical Association as the senior specialist managing the Responsible Care Program, under which the Gulf SQS program falls under. with a, let's say, a big umbrella or a combined objective of uplifting the environment, health, safety, security, and quality across the GCC chemical and petrochemical sector.
Right, thank you,
Thank you
Mohammed,
very
for
much.
that. Welcome to you as well. It's really great to have you here, and we are really looking forward to learn from you and to understand, how LSPs, but also the petrochemical manufacturers and assessors and other interested people can benefit from your knowledge and benefit from the system. My second guest and friend is Sajjad Khan, who is actually one of the assessors, one of the active assessors, and who's on a daily basis really concerned with making sure that the Gulf SQS assessments are properly conducted throughout the 6 GCC countries. Sajjad, can you introduce yourself shortly so that the people know who you are?
Thank you very much. And then what I have to say, because you have already introduced me in detail. So thanks all of you. Thanks for attending this very important session. My name is Sajjad Khan. I'm working as a Gulf SQS assessor and the management system auditor for Certification Global. And I'm assisting the GPCA team and then the Gulf SQS committee for sharing my knowledge and the experience when I'm performing the assessments for almost all the modules. And thanks to the GPCA committee for approving me and giving me the qualification. And thanks to Mr. Amador and Mrs. Raj for inviting me today. Thank you.
You're most welcome and happy to have you with us. My name is Amador Brinkman. I am a consultant to the GPCA, and I've been working with Gulf SQS almost since the start. That was in 2014. So we've went through all the interesting and less interesting times together, and I'm happy to be here hosting this webinar, which is the second of its kind and not the last of its kind, because we're really looking forward to engage other people and to talk more about the subject and to help people to understand. So if we look, what are we going to benefit from this, or what is the goal? What do we really want to benefit? It is first of all to understand how the website, which is gulfsqs.com, very simple, and how this has been improved over the years, or specifically last year. And in last year, or this is 2025, just before the last workshop that we've done during the supply chain conference in Dubai in May 2025, we also launched the new Gulf SQS questionnaires. So we're going to talk, of course, shortly, because we only have an hour or an hour and a half maximum, but we will be talking about what these changes are. So any interested people or people who are really like using the system or wanting to understand better how the system is applied, and also to those people that want to uplift their operations, they will be benefiting from this webinar. And then due to the experiences that we have since the last decade, implementing, working with the GPCA and with the system Gulf SQS, we have been able to make 2 guidance documents, which is the general guidelines and the accreditation, the assessor's accreditation manual. And you will really like the last one, because the accreditation manual has went through a lot of good changes, and there are a lot of features into the last document. And we'll also tell you how you can get those documents. And then, of course, this new Gulf SQS webinar, which eventually will translate into an online course. So again, welcome to you. From this perspective on, or from this point on, I want to give the word to my colleague, my friend, Mohammed Siraj, just to walk us through the Arabian Gulf petrochemical industry, just to have an introduction on the subject, and also understanding where we're actually coming from, and of course where we are going to. So Mohammed, I would love you to take the mic and tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you very much, Amador. And if you allow me, I would like to add some context to what this webinar is about.
Yes.
Why are we doing this? I mean, transportation of chemicals. Why are we giving a big deal about it? Those who are not aware, it is one of the biggest, or at least I'm talking about the chemical and petrochemical industry in the GCC region. It is a major contributor into the development of the entire GCC region. A lot of statistics here are shown on the screen. I'll go through a few of them. But why are we taking that step, the extra mile, into creating a program like Gulf SQAS, adding a second layer of protection, reviewing the logistic service provider, ensuring that the chemicals, petrochemicals are being transported safely across our routes within the GCC? And I will not go into the typical, let's say, story that an incident is much worse or much more costly than safety. I'm sure majority of the people attending here have a safety background or safety professional, but even from a commercial or a business point of view, the overall, let's say, chemical and petrochemical industry contributes to almost 33% of the manufacturing GDP to the GCC region. And this is relatively a very big number. If you can see here, the regional capacity exceeds 180 million metric tons compared to the global peers. If you look at the global or other country capacity production, the GCC region has scored a 93% utilization rate, in which the other industries outside the GCC range between 75 to 81%. This alone is a very, let's say, interesting. It shows how, let's say, innovative and working on the right path. Even when talking about investments, it says here 300 and plus billion dollars from 2020 till 2030. But I have a very specific number that in the pipeline as we are speaking now, from 2024 till 2028, we have captured that in the pipeline there is around $30 billion are being put for R&D specifically for the region here. So the business opportunity is massive. Making sure that this business or this industry, the chemical and petrochemical, moves safely and protecting the people involved, with whether it was the employees, the extended value chain, the employee within the communities, the environment, is more of a license to operate. If we don't monitor, ensure that there is no negative impact on our environment, obviously where we are living, the communities, then it will fire back. So with this background, I'd like to move on to the next slide. Yes, with this background, the GPCA adopted a program called the Gulf SQAS, and the full form of SQS is Sustainability Quality Assessment System. It's originally a European model, European program. I think that has been since the late 80s or early 90s, working perfectly, and it was achieving a lot of success in Europe. And here we're talking across Europe. With the inception of GPCA in 2006, getting more developed, more mature in 2014, the team identified that we need to focus more on the safety of the chemical and petrochemical products beyond the manufacturing fence. And the Gulf SQS program, or the SQS program, was, let's say, more of a plug and play program that we can adopt. Obviously, we tailored it and added the word Gulf before SQS to give it that regional taste. And from 2014, and you can see here in the picture that Amador shared, these are the godfathers of GPCA. You can identify Amador here as one of the early pioneers of the program. It was a very impressive journey from 2014 till 2025. I'll quickly take you through major milestones because those who are familiar with the program, it consists of multiple modules in which every company gets to choose, as per their operation, which module should we get assessed against. The core is mandatory. It's more of the, let's say, management approach. So every company will go through a core module or a core assessment. And then depending on your operation, do you have trucks, you transport, you do warehousing or a tank cleaning? These modules are integral or are the key part of the program. In 2015, the first three modules were developed, the core, transport services, and warehousing. And in between 2015 and 2019, tank cleaning, very comprehensive questionnaire. It was being developed and then published, if I recall, around mid 2018. In 2019, we did a survey, and the survey has very much, or it's very valuable because it was a direct survey to the CEOs of the chemical and petrochemical companies. And we asked them, one of the questions were, identify the top three challenges you see in our industry. And as you can see, process safety was highlighted as number one. This was the highest critical challenge. And the second spot, it was shared between product stewardship and distribution. Each of these were separate, let's say, options. And seeing that both of them scored the same exact score, ranking them as the second most critical challenge for the industry, it gave us a reflection, or it mirrored that our concerns within GPCA representing the petrochemical industry are the same as the challenges the CEOs of these major companies are seeing. Product stewardship, in short, to represent is you're accountable of your product, the accountability of your product when it comes to environment, health, and safety, from sourcing it from raw material until, I wouldn't say even to the end user, but until recycling. And distribution takes a clear part, or a clear, let's say, accountability in that process. In addition, we launched the responsible care for logistics service provider. And this translates that initially responsible care was only for manufacturing companies, and then we invited logistics service provider to join the program. We've added few programs like Operation Clean Sweep. In 2024, we said let's benchmark our growth against other programs. Where are we at? Is there an appetite? Our companies are committed. And as you can see, the number, when we presented this number earlier, it was too good to be true. We could not believe it, but we do have the numbers. All of the assessments are available on the portal. So there was a 950% growth since inception till end of 2024, and we are still growing. Uh, this year marks even the highest number of assessments conducted since inception. So it shows that the commitment from the industry towards implementing environment, health, and safety across the entire value chain, whether it was manufacturing companies, logistics service provider, converters, and so on, it is increasing. In 2025, we are here speaking together. On the back end, the committee, as Amador and Sajjad highlighted, we are working on a new module, the rail module. Hopefully, we'll be able to publish it during 2026, seeing that the rail operations in the industry are expanding, specifically in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. And finally, I cannot take go without mentioning the committee members who are the key drivers into the development of this program. As you can see, Amador is the vice chairman of the group, and he's a consultant again, working with us at GPCA. So these people, we meet regularly to reflect on the program, update, and we are supported with another task force, the assessor task force, which we have Sajjad here, member. We also have another assessor, engineer Abdurrahman. Their feedback, they are the people on the ground working on the program, and they give us the feedback for us to be able to improve and cater for these changes.
Yeah.
I think I said enough in this slide.
Yeah,
We can.
this slide is so extensive. You can talk a lot. You can make
True.
a master class about it. And I just wanted to mention that Faraz is also in the room, and I'm not sure
Yes.
if there are other people, but there are quite some interesting people already in the room. So we're looking forward to see them in the coming periods. Maybe we invite Faraz and some other people, Abdurrahman and others in the coming session. So thanks, Mohammed. Next slide.
Yes. So I mean, I gave a bit of context about why is the chemical industry very important. Why are we investing and putting a lot of effort into it? I gave you a brief about the Gulf SQAS implementation, but who is managing all of this? I mean, there is a player that is trying to take the lead into this implementation, and this is the Gulf Petrochemical and Chemical Association. We are titled as the voice of the industry, and we have, or we assume that we have the right to say that because our member companies, which is around almost 250 members, the total combined chemical output of all of the member companies of GPCA translate to 95% of the chemical output of the GCC region. So we are saying here that the chemical and petrochemical industry in the GCC is ranked ninth in the total or the global chemical sales revenue, and 95% of this are fall under the umbrella of GPCA. The program that we are discussing today, Gulf SQS, is engaged with all of these 250 members. We are promoting them and so on. The companies, the logos you can see here on the left side of the screen are the full members. So we have two categories, full members and associate members. Obviously, the criteria is different, but one of the criteria is that you need to be producing more than 100,000 tons per year for you to be eligible full member. And a lot of, not a lot, all of the logos here are well identified. These are the mega players of the industry across the six GCC states.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, this is it. Uh, okay, if you allow me, I'll just give a brief into this slide. The experts like you, Amador and Sajjad, can and take us through it. One thing I want to highlight is the involved stakeholders in the Gulf SQS program. So we gave a bit of an introduction about Gulf SQS. This process map takes you exactly through how an assessment is conducted, who is involved into this assessment, and additional details that will be shared by the panelists. Putting on, let's say, at the first direct stakeholder involved interested party is the manufacturing companies. The manufacturing company is producing the product, and it's looking for a service provider to transport it from point A to point B. And this would be the second stakeholder, the logistic service provider, uh, getting being contracted by the manufacturing companies. This is where GPCA and the certification bodies come in play. We have the program. The logistics service provider requests the Gulf SQS report or a Gulf SQS assessment based on the client requirement. So the manufacturing company has a strict or a clear requirement that for you to enter a tendering process, you need to be Gulf SQAS assessed. I need to see your report, and then according to your technical specification, your performance, we can give you or award you the contract. So the assessor on behalf of GPCA receives the assessment request, visits the LSP on site, and conduct the assessment. At the back end is the GPCA or the Gulf SQS subcommittee who reviews that entire process when it comes to the questionnaire or the technical specification, the process, the quality of the report, the portal, the website itself. We receive feedback from all of the three stakeholders. We try to improve, engage with them, conduct webinars like the one we are doing today to ensure that the program is on a continuous development cycle. Back to you, Amador and Sajjad, to take us through the process.
Well said. I think one of the main things to understand is that there is a specific aim for Gulf SQS, and a lot of people they think that SQS is something like an ISO certificate, but it is completely different. And as you see in the first bullet point, it aims to evaluate and drive continuous improvement, and that is maybe also with other certification schemes. But here, it does not lead to a certificate. So the goal is not getting a certificate. The goal is to get a factual report, and then getting a factual report only for one location of your operation. So every location will get a factual report. So how are you doing in that particular location from an occupational health, safety, environment, security, and quality perspective? And the system, like Mohammed already said, came originally from Europe. And one of the things that they wanted to reduce for the petrochemical industry is doing multiple assessments, because company A was doing an assessment for LSP B. And as they were going, they had to do for so many LSPs, so many assessments before they could come to a tender. But before they could come to a decision to give one of these LSPs the tender that they were having. And to avoid all these multiple assessments and to save cost and also reduce time, they made this system. And the good thing is that if you go to the website, which is gulfsqs.com, you will find these assessment reports. They are completely transparent to all the manufacturing companies, and the manufacturing companies, they can all access the details, and they can see what the performance is for the specific LSPs that they are looking to. So I think Mohammed already explained more or less how the flow of the program is working. And I think the only thing that needs to be added is that there is something what we call the Gulf SQS subcommittee or the committee, and you've seen their pictures in the slide before this, and they are ensuring the quality assurance of the program. They are governing the program, making sure that there is quality control and quality assurance. And I read from the slide, right? Assessors are inducted and they are trained and they are prepared. And also the awareness around the program is spread around the GCC region and for those people that are interested in the program. Now, there are a few areas that we want to understand from you and your feeling about it when it comes to Gulf SQS. So a question to all of you who are now in this meeting room. what do you think are the strengths of Gulf SQS? We can do that in two ways. You can take out your phone and just scan the QR code and reply. You just need to you just have to fill in your name, or you can fill in whatever you want, and then just it is a word cloud. So if you put in what you think that is a strength of Gulf SQS, we're about to see that. And the other way is that you go to this on your browser, you go to this address, which is polef.com, and then my name, Amador Brinkman 169. And then, yeah, we can see the responses. If you meet any challenges, Mohammed, did you put the address in the chat?
Yes, the link is in the chat.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it is accessible. It says this poll is locked.
Okay, that means that okay, that's strange.
It's not activated yet.
Strange. Yeah.
Yes.
Now it's open. You see the QR code is still in the corner, so you can still take the QR code. Yes, so that's the first one. We're waiting on your feedback. Please take the web address in the chat, or scan the QR code and put what you think are the strengths of Gulf SQS, the current strength. We are doing this so that we learn, where the strengths are, and also so that it's like a confirmation of what is actually going good at this point. We have another 20 seconds. So there's a timer in the corner. We gave it 30 seconds so that people can. All right. We thank you so much for your input. And if you look at it, strengths are, there is transparency, and I agree with that. There is transparency in logistics service providers, their EHSSQ performance, standardization standards, commitment, the evaluating chain, I think, platform, covering performance, EHS assessment system, overall share. So thank you for that. We have a few thoughts on this. Thank you for that. And then it is really also important to understand where the challenges are. So what are the things that we can actually look at to improve the performance and to change the performance? So for that, we have a second slide, and that is what are the challenges of Gulf SQS. So if you can please do exactly the same like you did, but just engage with what you see the challenges are, and then from a manufacturer perspective, or an LSP perspective, or an assessor perspective, in general, system LSPs awareness. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So you have another 30 seconds to also reply here. Awareness, commitment. So, okay. Anything else? Assessment awareness. Engagement. Beautiful, like that. Yes, I thank you for your inputs. When I click on the button, then actually the poll will be locked. So if there is anything else that you would like to write, please feel free to do so. I give a few more seconds so that we actually, as you see, there are and sometimes it's a bit difficult to say that about yourself, right? But there are quite some important stakeholders presenting this, which is Mohammed, Sajjad, and myself. We actually are part of that group that are running this system. So we want to utilize your feedback in order to improve the program, and that's what we've been doing during the last year. The workshop was great, but there were other sessions that we really learned a lot from all of you, and we would like to really to continue learning from you how we can actually improve the system. And these are nice things, right, that you can do to understand better. And maybe in other in another time we might give this a little bit more time to go through it. But on a webinar, yeah, we are already 45 minutes in, so there's of course not so much time to get into all these details. A lot of times you sit in these kind of webinars and you see the time is going quite fast. And again, I really appreciate, or we really appreciated that all of you have joined. We know this is the first of its kind, or the first one that really worked out in the way that we did it. The first time personally, and our company Technic Works, we bring on these important people for this program. And now that is, of course, yeah, the first time, and we'll hope to do that in the near future more and more. So thank you for your feedback. We are going to look at this and we're going to utilize this. And also there will be a Q&A, so questions and answers on the end of this session. So feel free to share your feedback as well on the end of the session. For now, we go to the next slide. Thank you. What are the key changes? And you can understand that we had quite some key changes, or we had quite some changes, but what are now the things that we focused on? And I would really love to take you into the journey, how the committee comes to what are the most important things that they need to work on, and how we interact with the assessors task force, and how do we interact with the petrochemical industry through the responsible care committee and all the other committees like the supply chain committee and others. But that would really take a lot of time. And I think in the near future, we should bring on some of these people to also talk about their side of this journey, right? Because it's quite interesting to understand how these people are working for more than 10 years in such a program, and why this program is getting more and more success in the region. Now, key changes are, first of all, we updated the general guidelines, and there are more essential parameters. We did update all the questionnaires, so all the modules. So we updated the core. So Mohammed, in the slide while he was talking about the Gulf SQAS journey from 2014 up to 2025, he also talked about the questionnaires, and then he said in 2018 there was actually the first time that we had 3 modules ready. And then later on we added the tank cleaning module to it. Now in 2025 has been the second time that we had a complete revision of all the questionnaires. So whoever is now on in the chat room or in the room, for you to understand that all the questionnaires have been improved. This is based, as the system is, on the European models, but it has, like we always do, been customized on the GCC region. So whatever, if there is a difference in maturity between Europe and the GCC region, and there are different areas. In certain areas, the GCC are a bit further. For example, in security, the GCC region might be further than in Europe in a lot of areas. But from other perspectives, Europe might be much more mature than the GCC. So we have looked at where the maturity lies and where also the concerns lie, and we have customized the system based on those facts. One of the very important things that we did, and Sajjad will talk in a moment about that, we improved the pre-assessment document, and I will not give any details now, but that is something that the LSPs need in order to request for an assessment. So in order to request for an assessment, you need to fill out what we call the pre-assessment document so that the assessor knows about preliminary information in order to understand how he will conduct the assessment at your particular location. And then since there is a lot of improvements in data security over the last decade, we noticed that the data security of the system really requires an update. And so we have put a better process control over the database. And the database is, of course, the website gulfsqas.com. There is, you can say, an assessor's access, of course, a GPCA access as well, but there is an access for the LSPs, and there is also an access for the manufacturer. So there is a general access that all of you can see. So if you go now to the website, you would see the general information around the program. But if you get with your login details as an assessor, LSP, or a manufacturer, you will see additional information. And we noticed that the security from those platforms needed to be improved, and that's what we have done. Like I said, the questionnaires, that was one of the main things. As you know, health and safety is continually improving, and there is always something to improve. So we have looked at many areas, things like EHSSQ. I mean, these abbreviations are so much, like you check QHE, but here HSS and Q management. So we have looked at the different areas from risk assessment, emergency preparedness, also corporate social responsibility, and other operational safety, health and safety related issues. But in this version, the emission and environmental controls and calculations, like the greenhouse gases calculations and other sustainability areas, are one of the focuses of this question, of the new questionnaire. Also, the digitalization and the data security are definitely important areas, but there are also other important areas, like, for example, food and feedstock, like, as usual, dangerous goods, and other very important areas. From a number of questions perspective, there are no very big changes, or they're not increased a lot, but the type of questions are definitely improved and changed. So it really makes sense for an LSP, even though, let's say, you have already got your Gulf SQAS accreditation a couple of years ago, or even if it's before May this year, then it is really recommended that you read through the new questionnaire and that you go back to the assessor's manual and the general guidelines and understand what the changes are, because the changes are quite fundamental and they also need additional expertise. Of course, I will now give the word to my colleague Sajjad. The LSPs, they also went through a lot of changes. I will not talk about it at this point because there is quite some a little bit of time constraint. But as Sajjad will go on with his speech, he will definitely touch these areas. So Sajjad, I will give the floor to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the key changes, actually, before the changes, as Mr. Ahmadura already covered many areas of the changes, but most LSPs are confused, like what are the changes, or are they are really tough or difficult to comply? No, these are the changes are basically, we can say that like these are the long awaited changes which we have done after the lot of reviews through the technical committees, through the assessors, through the LSPs and their manufacturers involvement, and everybody gave their inputs, and after that we made system simplified. Okay, we made system simplified, as earlier there were many confusion in the questions for the assessors also and for the LSPs, that like for this particular question how we have to reply. And then let's say if we don't have the accommodation, what we are going to do? We don't have the accommodation, we are a small company, or we are just distributors. So what is applicable to us, or that what is not applicable to us? Is this will be a negative marking for us, or like it will be a positive marking for us? So the new questionnaires are basically are more simplified and then easy to comply if the LSPs will understand it and go in detail for the question. So like each and everything is explained. After, means in the next column of each question, the detailed explanation is there, and then the linked documents are also available. The problem is what, that most LSPs are not going through those questionnaires, and then they are not visiting the website gulfsqas.com, because all the information, everything is available. Even the translated documents are available on the Gulf SQAS website. If you'll see that the questionnaires are there, if you'll see that like the guidelines, how to implement, how the driver's manual will be prepared, how the incident report should be, and many other guidelines. Everything is available on the Gulf SQS website. So I request all the LSPs and the other supporting people like the assessors and the manufacturers to review the Gulf SQS website, and they will think what they require, and then it will be available there, inshallah. So the key changes, especially for the PAD, since Mr. Amador has already mentioned that PAD is the first document, because when you want to start the assessment, how you will communicate the information about your company to the assessor. So this is the first document, PAD, or the pre-assessment document. It gives all the information or the background of the organization, that what organization operates for. Either they are the transporter or the warehouse or the tank cleaning station, or in future, inshallah, for the rail. So what they are going to do, means what they're performing actually, what are the basic information or the detailed information about the particular operations. So each and everything is available here. What you need to do is you need to only the select yes and no, and then you will give the clarity about your organization, that what an LSP is operating for. But most LSPs are not aware that the newer version is already available on the website of the gulfsqs.com. What they do, if they are going for the reassessment, or like they came to know from another friend or the another LSP that the Gulf SQS program is helping the LSPs to get the business and then to get the bid, what they do, they supply the older version. The older version is already discontinued or the obsolete. In newer version, as I mentioned, that there is no accommodation, there is no transportation, the clear the guidelines or the information what you need to select, in especially related to the dangerous goods, especially related to the operations, and then the physical activities. But what we experience that most LSPs, they mention that like if even they don't have the physical side, if they don't have a particular operations, they think that if you will mention in this PAD, it will help them. Ultimately, it is not helping them. It is increasing the time of the assessment, simultaneously increasing the cost. And then once an assessor will come on the site, if he will not see those operations, then of course there will be ambiguity in the assessment, and then it will extend the time, and then it will be a problem during the assessment. So better whatever the operations you have, mention it here. And then some LSPs, what they do, they can think that like, since this is the area where we are unable to comply, but we have those operations, so they try to hide. But once the assessor goes on the site and he saw that like there is a particular site where the operations are loading and unloading operations, or the temporary storage, or maybe they are handling the dangerous goods which did not means inform the LSPs through the pre-assessment document. Because the process of the pre-assessment document will be, once the LSP will send to the assessors, the assessor will review this document, and after that he will upload this one on the Gulf SQAS portal. And through this only the assessment will open after reviewing of the GPCA team. But if something has been reviewed, and then if something is not mentioned which is available on the site, if it is not mentioned in the PAD, what happens after that? That once the assessor will go on the site, then of course a complete process which we have done earlier need to follow. We need to re-review the PAD, we need to send it to GPCA for the approval, and then recalculate the time. Then of course, like, it will be additional cost for the LSPs. Rather, they will supply those information which will be available, and then they are doing it. So transparently mentioned in that one. So this is the journal information about the PAD. What are the changes? As I mentioned, there is no earlier in the previous PAD, the 4.0 version was related to the assessment protocol, and then giving the information about the LSP's operations. But it mentions that like if you have the accommodation, if you have the transportation for the operations staff or the drivers, and then many other areas like there were some particular areas related to the site operations and all. So now the updated PAD is giving a clear picture, and then it is providing more clear information for the LSP. Simultaneously, it is calculating the mandatory time which we as an assessor need to spend on the site, which is 3.5 days or 28 hours. Why? Because earlier the calculation was calculating the less man hours, but once the assessor is going there, so it was difficult for the assessor also to complete the assessment time. Simultaneously, it is difficult for the LSPs to share their evidences or the documents. Then what the assessor was doing that time, the assessor was writing the less report, and then they are saying that these areas are not compliant because LSPs was unable to share those information because of the limitation of the timeline. Okay, so now we discussed these areas with the GPCA, and then we mentioned that this is the timeline, and they calculated based on the available information or the reasonable time should be spent on the site. So they calculated the minimum time should be 28 hours or the 3.5 hours. Simultaneously, like this PAD is giving more information about the dangerous goods, and then the practices locally adopting, because earlier what we were doing is we were adopting the system as came from the Europe, and there are many areas which were not applicable to the GCC region. So it is giving a more picture and the clear picture. Yeah, the next slide, please. So the key changes about the assessment process, this area is very important to understand for the LSPs and then for the assessors as well. Earlier, the LSPs were complaining that we were not aware about the process, and then the assessor came and then he directly started the assessment. We don't understand what is the requirement of the Gulf SQAS, why we are asking, why the LSP, the assessor is asking for the questions which we don't think that it is a part of the Gulf SQAS. So the clear answer is basically that before assessment, we request you to always check the questionnaires. The core questionnaire is the generic questionnaire, which is mandatory for all the LSPs, whatever either the transporter or the warehouses or tank cleaning station. And then the specific questionnaires is also detailed. So if a company is doing only the transportation, so they should go for in detail for the transportation questionnaire, and they should review what are the applicability. Simultaneously, if somebody is doing the transportation and the warehousing, so they should go for the transportation warehousing, and then additionally the generic questionnaire, which is mandatory for the all LSPs, which is core questionnaire, they should review, so they will understand, because it is not the perception based assessment. Okay, it is not like we are following the ISO standard 9001 or 14001, or we are following the standard 14001 or the environmental management or safety management. As an assessor, once I will come to your facility, I will just follow these questionnaires which are applicable to you. And these are the Bible for me to follow during the assessment. Whenever I will start the assessment, I will do the assessment based on the questionnaire and then the questions which are particularly mentioned there. So the kickoff meeting is the first part of how the assessment will be started. Once as an assessor, we will come to your facility, we will do the kickoff meeting, give you the complete information, what we are going to check, how we are going to check. In this one, either we will do the pre-assessment document review in an online meeting prior to the assessment, or if the LSP is not available, we'll come to the facility and we'll perform the assessment, means the PAD review on during the assessment at the start, so that we will understand that what are the areas or the operation an LSP is performing, and accordingly we'll kick out or kick off our assessment. And we will, of course, stress on the confidentiality and the impartiality, that whatever the information we'll review in this assessment will not share to any third party. And after that, what are the resources are required to be performed, and then the protocol of the assessment, and then how we are going to, so the methodology, what we are going to do. Normally the methodology, what an assessor is performing is they are going to perform a site tour, then they perform the interviews, and then they check the documentation or the evidences. So these are the changes, like the kickoff meeting, which we have to perform. Simultaneously, what is the requirement or like the stress on the new changes is basically what we have to do, like as an assessor, to confirm that like these requirements are being implemented or complying, or like to answer as yes or one, or marking one or scoring one. What we need to do, we need to check the written documentation and then the photographic evidences. So based on that, we'll justify either the system is complying or not complying. Simultaneously, what we need to do is like we need to see that like to confirm an evidence, like what are the evidences are being available on the site, or like if it is complying for a particular question, or answering it yes or yes, or marking it as year one. We need to see that if the policy or the procedure is available, simultaneously if the transaction documents are available, and in the end the communication of those all documentation like the policy and the transaction document, and the people who are involved are aware about it. Then what we need to do is like once we are doing the assessment as per the new changes, that we need to transparently inform the LSP that, sir, these are the areas where you guys are lacking or need the improvement. This is the area which you need to prepare the improvement action plan, and then you have to submit the improvement action plan for the assessor approval. The new changes, or this is also very important change, and then it is helping the LSPs. What happened earlier, that the procedure was for the assessment that like once the assessment been performed, till 3 years, the further 3 years, there is no further assessment being performed. And in those areas, if even they have improved those areas, nobody is coming to check. Okay. And at that time, the LSPs are saying that nobody is coming and then checking that what we have been improved. So we have to wait for 3 years to show our performance. Based on their request, GPCA has reviewed the timeline for the assessment, and then they mentioned that an assessment will be performed as an assessment, a full assessment will be performed after 3 years, but in between, after 18 months, there will be a partial assessment or the follow-up of the improvement action plan. Let's say an LSP has scoring 1 or yes, or performing well or complying in particular areas. Of course, this will be marked in the report, but those areas where they need the improvement will be marked as 0 or the improvement areas. So an assessor will come after the 18 months, or it's upon you. If you're thinking that like we have done the means we have taken the improvement action and we have taken the action on all the areas, so after 6 months you can apply this follow-up assessment anytime, but before 18 months. So these are the changes what JPCA has done. And this is the mandatory 18 months assessment which is required to be performed. Otherwise, of course, you will get the notification from the LSP, the GPCA, and then simultaneously the follow-up from our side as well as an assessor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are very important changes, and
Yeah.
thanks for highlighting this. I just want to recalibrate from a time perspective. Again, these kind of webinars, you always spend a little bit additional time. We start a little bit later, and then we get excited, right? Because it's a very nice subject. But let's just make sure that we still have some time, and that's why I already skipped one slide, right? And let's just go through these the coming important slides so that we still have a little bit of time for people to ask a few questions. And like I said, we can do another webinar maybe next month, or ASAP. Next month is maybe a bit short, but we will do another one. So can you please continue with this part of the discussion? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm sorry for being long.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the key changes for the assessors, because they are actually keeping an eye on us as earlier as well, but there are more tough requirements for the assessor, not only for the LSPs. So GPCA, of course, complying means qualifying the assessors based on their knowledge, based on their education, based on their experience. But what been added in the new changes or the update, that the assessor should be having a clear experience for the dangerous goods. They should have the detailed knowledge of the dangerous goods. Simultaneously, they should be the lead assessors for the different standards. They should maintain the CPD, like the continual professional development. They should attend the task force meetings, then attend the GPCA conferences and the training. Simultaneously, the other trainings or the qualification for the DGSA and then GHG, OCS, and many others. Then as earlier also, they were doing the evaluation of the assessors, but the criteria is more tightened now. The each and every report being reviewed by the technical committee and then the GPCA team. And whenever an assessor is performing an assessment, of course, there are a lot of questions from the team, that why you mentioned that it is complying, or why you mentioned it is not complying. These questions are coming from the technical committee and technical team, also from the GPCA. And then, of course, we have to give a clear answer and then provide sometimes the evidence is what we have checked during the assessment. So this is very important part. So that is why, like, sometime if the assessor is asking you more evidences, or like keeping the photos of some documents or the evidences, that is the reason that he is keeping it confidential. But like mainly when it is required by the technical committee, then of course need to share that based on what we mentioned, that it is complying or non-complying, or why the improvement areas are in this particular area. Then of course, like stricter ethics. Ethics means the LSP, that we should maintain the impartiality during the assessment. We are not allowed to take the gifts and gratuities from the LSPs. And this is very much important to understand, because like sometime based on the culture requirements, especially in Saudi Arabia, it happens that most of the LSPs and then the CEOs, once they are meeting, they are trying to provide some gifts or like offer some gifts, and then they try to offer something which is of course not allowed as per the GPCA requirements, and then the ethics of the code of conduct. And ultimately, we are following the guidelines of the ISO 19011 as per the auditor, which is of course mentioned in the GPCA accreditation manual and then the assessors manual also. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Siraj has to cover this slide.
Thank you very much, Sajjad. You have covered the majority of the slide. I'll not spend much time on that. Just to reiterate on the last point that you have highlighted, with the governance of the subcommittee over the certification body, the assessment process, we tend to be strict because this reflects the integrity, credibility, not only of the GPCA being the owner of the program, but it also involves the integrity and credibility of the individual as the assessor and the company he is associated with, which is the certification body. And to surprise maybe to some of the companies that might not be aware, it also affects the integrity and credibility of the logistics service provider itself. Let's say if through our investigation or through our review, we see a malpractice into one of the assessment that happened, the bodies affected are the LSP, the certification body, and anyone who's associated into that. So we tend to be very cautious and give enough attention to the assessor's performance during the assessment, making sure that the outcome report is something that is reliable, credible, and because from the report, the manufacturing company, and I'm here talking to the logistics service provider representative. This specific report is the window from which your client is looking at you. So the more credible, trustworthy, and true the report is, the higher the opportunity or higher the chance that the manufacturing company will trust the logistics service provider. Because I mean, I'm talking about or from past experiences, we have seen reports that does not reflect the on-site performance. The report can say the company is top-notch. They are the best implementer of environment health and safety management system. At some point, if a manufacturer representative visit your site and does not see that whatever is mentioned on the report is practiced on site, who will be the first person to get damaged or get accused? Is the logistics service provider. Then it will follow to the LSP and the overall program, which is the GPCA. I mean, the document that was shared in the previous slide is available on the website. I urgently and request from the users of the program, go on the website, and Amador and Sajjad both said the same thing. Download the assessor accreditation manual. It has all of these information and even much more. It talks in specific details on the assessment process, what are the criteria, what is the expectation, how do you manage it, and we are even issuing or publishing additional documentation to help the logistics service provider implement the program and manage the implementation throughout the tenure of the assessment, whether it is up to the 18 month or till end of the
Are you saying something? I cannot hear you, Mr. Amaru.
No, I think I had an internet glitch or something like that. Is, is Mohammed still there, or he's not here anymore, right?
Yeah, I think he has some internet issue.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
you can continue, please. Yeah.
he had some interruption. Okay, I will then continue on his behalf until he comes back. So I think he really hit the nail on the head. It's definitely extremely valuable to understand that there is a governance behind the system that is really looking at making sure that the professionality and integrity and impartiality of the system is preserved, and that there is also development going on where several people from several not only companies but also with different backgrounds are looking at how we can make sure that the system stays intact, and then the main people who are actually ensuring that this system stays intact are definitely the assessors. And that's why we have a lot of focus, and Sajjad is part of that team. I believe Abdurrahman, I saw him. I see Rahil is here now as well. And some of the other colleagues, they are doing assessments on a daily basis or frequent basis. And they are the ones who are actually making sure that the system stays as we intended it to be. Now, as a recap and specifically looking at the time as well. So the Gulf SQAS committee, they have a vision. And I will just read through it so that you get the feeling to elevate Gulf SQAS, strengthen stakeholder trust, and ensure assessment integrity, upholding the highest quality, sustainability, and safety standards. So the GPCA and translated into the Gulf SQAS committee, they have a clear vision, and that is really to elevate occupational health, safety, environment, and quality and security, of course, in the region, and specifically for the dangerous goods that they are handling in the neighborhoods in the 6 countries, making sure that people stay safe at all time. Also, one of the goals is definitely to keep on the global alignment, and that's why we are aligning with different entities. For example, CEFIC, of course, and ECTA in Europe, but also companies like the American Safety Council and chemical engineers, etc., other American organizations, and of course local organizations within the GCC, but also beyond into Asia and other areas. So the GPCA has all these connections. One of the important goals, like we already said, is making sure that these assessors stay competent. So I think Sajjad mentioned it a couple of times, and this is where he said that there is a CPDA or CPD, continual personal development, where they have to update themselves and understand the new principles. There are different trainings happening, different discussions, and of course they also have to read by themselves and gain knowledge from the different areas. And of course I talk on behalf of the GPCA here, but of course also for technical work, but because Mohammed, I think he had some challenge with his internet connection. But investing in people, making sure that all the stakeholders are informed, so assessors, LSPs, manufacturers, but also the people from the GPCA. And then, of course, making sure that there stays an integration with responsible care. So the committee, the Gulf SQAS committee, is governed, the whole committee is governed by the responsible care committee that consists of all representatives from the different petrochemical organizations. Now, last but not least, and I see that it's locking. I'm not sure why again, but we have a few. We have a few questions because we want to learn a little bit from you. First of all, if you like this webinar or the way that we talked around the subject, what would it be that you would like to learn in the near future? Is it the details on Gulf SQAS, on the Gulf SQAS modules, or would you like to go a little bit deeper into behavior-based safety and organizational behavior management, or would you like to go into something more like dangerous goods, ADR, GHS, or would you like to go a little bit deeper into operational clean sweep and greenhouse gas calculations? I'm not sure. It is locking. I'm trying to get it open. A few challenges here. Technical challenge. Okay, I see that I have a glitch here that is not working. Oh,
Yeah, it's open now.
It's open. Okay. Yeah, sorry for this inconvenience. But if you can do the same, put the QR code or the link in the chat, then just fill out what you think is right. I will stop the timer so that you have a little bit more time to so that it doesn't lock by itself. Please feel free to again scan the QR code. Oh, that's it immediately starts, right? Okay, Operation Clean Sweep is getting on top. It's almost like a bidding, right? But we definitely, these subjects are, all of them are important, but in order to see what we could, focus on first, I can already tell you that there will be an organizational behavior management session coming up soon, but all the other subjects are open for planning. And fortunately, I don't do this alone, and we don't only do this with TechnicWorks, but we do this with some of our colleague companies like DNV, Intertech, and Certification Global, and others that are also supporting this initiative to make sure that people get updated on these programs, which is super essential, right? So that they can implement the system properly and also get higher or better scores, better implementation, better safety systems. So I see that Operation Clean Sweep is getting quite high. I see still some changes happening. I'm not 100% sure about the numbers behind it, but we will definitely look at that. I think Mohammed, maybe you were already expecting this. Not to forget that Operation Clean Sweep, dangerous goods, and behavior-based safety or organizational behavior management, they're all part of the modules, right? So the modules are actually covering all of this in a bit of less of a detail, but they will be going into all these subjects. And when we talk about a specific subject, then we will be focusing only on that specific subject. And I think one way or another, we need to cover all of them, but this is just to prioritize and also to see, okay, what are the resources that we have and what are the availability. Also, where is the appetite from all of you? So I really appreciated that you gave us our feedback. And then, yeah, of course, we originally have only a few minutes, but I'm willing to go a little bit beyond the time because we started 5 minutes later as well. I would like to, first of all, make sure that the questions that I have put in the announcement, that we are covering this properly. So also Mohammed and Sajjad, if you help me just to answer shortly and not too lengthy, so that we can also give some platform to our colleagues that are now in the chat. So you can do two things, or put your question in the chat. And since we are not a lot of people, I'm still open if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, but we want to make sure that we don't start all talking at the same time. So maybe raise your hand if you have something to say. Then we ask you to open your mic, and then you can ask the question. Or if it's inconvenient for you, feel free to write in the chat so that we can answer. So first question, that is to get the pace going. Critical EHSSQ gaps that cause 80% of first-time assessment failures, and how to fix them before your assessment. Maybe this is a very good question for Sajjad, because he's dealing with a lot of LSPs that are doing their first assessment and they fail. How would you answer this question? How can or the people in the room, how can they prepare themselves better so that their first time assessment or maybe even their second and third assessments are going better?
Yeah. So as earlier I mentioned that they should review the questionnaire first, and then they should prepare based on the question wise. They need to prepare because some of the LSPs they are preparing very well because they have read the questionnaire in detail, and accordingly they are maintaining the documents and evidences. Because if a particular question may be like they're unable to understand, and during the assessment only they understood, but the document is not available at that particular facility, or that particular person is not available who has to answer this particular, so they'll not be able. And of course, like assessor will write this one as 0 because he didn't understand, we didn't get the reply on that. Simultaneously, most LSPs, if even they read the documentation and many other things or the questionnaire, they don't update the system on time and on the continual basis. What they are thinking, like, let's say the 3 years before what we have done the assessment and then we were perfect, so the same documentation they try to offer in the next 3 assessment, which is of course like not acceptable. The assessment, the training or the risk assessment or the incident investigation which we have done 3 years before, of course it become invalid. Now that new things and then the new people are there and then the new type of scenarios are there. So yeah, these are the areas which are the challenges mostly.
That's a very good answer. I really like that. And you can trim it down into one or two words, which is proper preparation, right? So prepare yourself properly and make sure that you also, ask those people that have a little bit more knowledge than you on those areas. The next question, how Gulf SQAS assessments are conducted and used by major chemical companies to make supplier decisions? This is really a good question for Mohammed Siraj. Mohammed, can you please answer this question?
Thank you very much. We did actually answer the question in a very detailed manner during our presentation, but to be very short, the chemical companies or the chemical manufacturing companies is using the Gulf SQAS program to assess and identify the EHSSQ performance of the logistic service provider. So they have put, and some of the manufacturing companies has already implemented it. It's a tendering requirement. It's in their procurement process. You want to take a job from us, conduct the assessment, and submit the report in your tendering procedure for technical evaluation.
Yeah.
And through this, they decide whether your performance or your position in the EHSS performance or implementation is relevant to the job they are looking for. One of the things we might not have covered, or maybe it was covered during while I was away, is the score mentality. The report does not have a score. Though there is a number written on the score, the number is only an indication on the number of questions answered.
Yeah.
The score, for example, if I'm a manufacturing company and I have a specific product that being transported with two logistic service provider, one with the number on the report reflecting 80, which people believe it's a score, and the other company has, for example, 40. The company with the number 40 might be more relevant to me. They are have a niche, let's say, services, and they implement exactly what I'm looking for. Whereas the company with the 80 number might be missing in those 20 marks, they are missing what exactly I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So the number is not a score. It does not reflect your maturity. It only, as we said, it's a factual report. So answering or giving back to the answer Sajjad highlighted.
Yeah.
And Amador, you reiterated that preparation is very important so that your client, the chemical company, can see through your performance and take a right decision.
Nice answer. I really love the answer. The next question, the competitive playbook top performing LSPs used to win and retain contracts. Actually, there are within the region a couple of companies, or there are more than 10 or 15 companies that are, like they're really top performing. They have all the resources, they have all the interest, the commitment. They have, yeah, I mean, you can say the biggest contracts, maybe even, and also a lot of motivation and a lot of input to reach to that. How can smaller logistic service providers learn from them? What is it what they use? And I will give the question to Mohammed or Sajjad, whoever thinks that you want to add value on this particular one. Who wants to take the question?
I can share just one liner on that topic. And
Okay.
as you said, a playbook for the top performing LSPs to win and retain contract
Mhm.
is transparency in their assessment. And this can only be conducted through proper preparing.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. Gents who are attending it, I believe it's not rocket science. It is very clear questions. Each question has a guidance. You need to prepare. If this is implemented in my company, where is the evidence? And you will make your life easier and the assessor life much more easier.
Yeah.
Sajjad, any reflections from your end?
Yeah, actually, that prepare well before calling the assessment. Otherwise, some of the people are really in hurry. They said that we need the assessment, but actually, once we reach on the ground, they said that like yeah, we should gain some time before calling you. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, what we did, and that the three of us, or with the rest of the team as well, is we added what we call prerequisites, or so that organizations make sure that they prepare themselves, or that they have the minimum requirements already in place before they actually go for this. You don't go for a university if you don't have your high school yet, right? So you first go for high school and then you go for the university. And that is also with Gulf SQAS. So my feedback would be exactly like we did. Make sure that you implement an ISO 9001, an ISO 45001, and an ISO 14001. Then you really have all the basics already in place. Or if you can do that, it's not a must. It's not like you have to do that, but you will have for 9001 a proper quality management system, right? If you do 14,001, you have a good environmental system. 45,001, you will have a proper occupational health and safety management system, and that will really help you to upgrade yourself within this Gulf SQS system. And this is, I mean, I can name a few names from people in the committee that would agree with me, because we've seen that, and that's why we've added prerequisites like, do you have a policy, an EHSSQ policy? If you don't have a policy, it's quite difficult. I mean, a company policy for occupational health and safety, environment, quality, etc. If you don't have a policy, a minimum policy, then it's very difficult for you, because there will be no real commitment yet from your management, or not specifically written down. Also, we are asking, did you do a risk assessment? I mean, basics, right? If you didn't do a risk assessment, don't go for Gulf SQS. You really need to do a risk assessment, understand what your risk profile is, okay? And then, do you have a management review? Do you review your system now and then? I mean, and these are all taken from like management systems, like the kinds of ISO. And then, do you have an internal audit program? Do you do any types of auditing, inspections, etc.? If you don't do these things, don't go for Gulf SQS. But of course, if you have these things in place and you have the kinds of these ISO standards, then that is the competitive playbook. And I'm sure that the likes of Feraz and other colleagues that are sitting here with us would confirm that. Last question on my list. I don't see any questions in the chat as far as except if somebody else sees something else that I don't see. How we support logistic service providers through the assessment and improvement process. Maybe Mohammed, you can start with that, answering that question, please.
I just opened the chat. It's giving me a message that the chat is blocked. Chat is disabled.
Is the chat disabled? Okay.
Yes.
If anybody, okay, after this question, The participant can chat with host and co-host. Okay, I think now I gave people access. I'm not 100% sure. Again, this is quite some technical item behind it. Yes, yeah, I think you can chat now, right? So
Yes,
maybe
yeah,
maybe by
just right.
mistake
Yes.
I got it locked. I see Sajat is saying hi. Okay, not to lose time. If you can try to put it in the chat. If not, then you can just open your mic after Mohammed and Sajat answer how we, and then that could be the GPCA, but it could also be the certification bodies. How do we, and of course other stakeholders like the petrochemical industry, how do we support logistic service providers through the assessment and the improvement process?
Great. A very good question, Amador, because there is a lot of ambiguity behind the support that the committee, the Gulf SQAS, let's say providers, and the GPCA do in terms of supporting the logistics service provider. I'll give a scenario, and this should be able to answer all of these questions. If you review the website, identify the contact details, and drop an email saying that I'm a logistics service provider, I need to go through an assessment, I need support. Uh, Myself or one of the team members will reach out to you and identify exactly what support. If you need an additional support and awareness, understanding the program, taking you through the documentation itself, we will not be doing the assessment for you, or we will not be giving you a consultancy service, but we will make sure that you have a full understanding of the questionnaire and maybe some tips or some guidance. How can you prepare?
Yeah.
And what from I mean, working with this program for 7 years, what I'm saying should be more than enough for any logistics service provider to go through the full assessment. Sajjad maybe can highlight more on the services that a certification body can support a logistics service provider for an assessment.
Yeah. Okay. Before that, I just want to, because like the question is basically like asking for the support, and then this overall system is basically the overall program is supporting the LSPs to elevate their performance, to save their cost, which is the hidden cost. Let's say if I'll give the example of the iceberg, mainly the LSPs are only looking at the apparent cost, what they're spending. But the non-apparent cost, as the iceberg example, which is quite bigger than the apparent visibility, they don't care about it, and then they don't think about it. But what happens is basically after implementing this system, let's say the incident investigation or the risk assessment is helping them overall to save the cost, which they will, of course, if they will not implement the system, they are going to spend in case of any incident or the legal penalties or the customer complaints also. So this system is overall program is helping actually the LSPs to maintain the good value of their organization and then to retain the customers. Simultaneously, as the certification bodies or the assessors, first of all, we help the logistic services provider to understand the PAD and what are the applicabilities. And if they need some help, like the information, like how we are going to do this one, and then where we need to see, where need to log in, where need to submit the information, of course we provide this information. In some cases, if they are looking for particular trainings, then of course their inquiry we are means communicating to the GPCA. And then in some cases, if it is not related and then it is not impacting the impartiality, then of course like we provide them the trainings related to the improvement of the HSE, and then a particular area like the risk assessment training, or like the behavior based safety training. Of course, like we need to see that like if it will impact the impartiality, then we need the permission from the GPCA. But in these all areas we are helping and supporting, and then in the end all of the assessors are not biased, they are impartial. So this is ultimate help to the LSPs, that we are giving a fact finding report and a clear report to the LSPs so that they can share it with their customers, and of course it will help them to get the further business and then the further improvement areas, so that like they can improve. Because most of the time what happens is like we are keep passing this path, and we don't know like where we need the improvement. So a third eye is really important to identify and to think out of the box. So of course this assessment is helping them to identify the improvement areas in their system and then to work on.
Yeah, Mohammed, last question from my side is, so what if an LSP does not have all the required knowledge in-house? They want to go for an assessment. They will be going for their first or maybe even second assessment with these new questionnaires, and they don't have all the knowledge in-house. Can they go for a consultant, and how can LSPs deal with consultants or with outside support? And does the GPCA or does the program allow this? What are the boundaries? What are the recommendations? And what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you very much, Amber. This is a very, I'll say, a spicy question for me, because we have been, let's say, dealing with consultants or people who portray themselves as consultants in the market. And instead of doing their intended role in terms of supporting the logistics service provider, they started damaging the provider. So to keep it short, an LSP who wants support with a consultant to help him uplift, the objective is not Gulf SQAS. The objective is a strong, sound EHSSQ management system. Make sure that you procure a trustworthy consultant, someone who will support you to go through an assessment alone with the required understanding of the objective of the assessment, the objective of each question, and how you can implement them, and create, let's say, an improvement action plan to address these during the cycle. But definitely, and this is the good example, what you should avoid is someone who will tell you that I will do the assessment on your behalf.
Yeah.
This is a red flag. Stay away from it. He's not helping you if you believe you are. You might think that he's taking the headache away from you, but it will eventually fire back, and you're doing damage to yourself more than support. So this is not a consultant. This is part of the ethics and code of conduct we are referring to. Uh, if your main purpose is to, I just want to get the report, I don't care about the entire process, then SQS is not for you. Maybe the entire business to this extent is not for you.
Yeah. That is a great question, and you know that I aimed for that because it is really different or very important situation that a lot of LSPs are encountering. So what I would like to do is at the end ask our attendees if they would like to unmute themselves, although we are 15 minutes beyond the timeline, right? But is there anything important that you would like to ask these experts now? I will just open your mic, ask the question, and we'll try to answer. And let's say we give it another maximum 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes maybe. And otherwise, we close it for now, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Any questions? Or maybe you want to add value, you want to say something, you want to share knowledge or maybe a thought, an idea. Feel free. Anybody? Rahil, I don't believe that you have nothing to say. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Assalamu alaikum. Evening, guys.
Alaykum assalam.
Actually, I was, a bit like in a tough situation because I have drove almost like 350 kilometers today. So, anyways, yeah. Yeah, I think the last point which Siraj was giving the point of view, have a consultant. I mean, it's a debatable discussion. I mean, okay, it's good to have someone supporting the organization, but at the same time, keeping in mind that, I mean, they are really there to support the organization, and ensuring them that they are on the front step and getting the best out of this assessment. Sometimes we already have seen certain cases where the consultant intention was a bit different, and as Siraj mentioned, it actually eventually, I would say, backfired the LSP badly, and all of a sudden they again came back to, zero situation, and they have to start from the scratch. So I won't blame the LSP, I mean, 100% in this case, because it's not easy to, I mean, screen and filter the consultant throughout this procurement cycle. Maybe initially, they might be showing their in a good face, and then based on that they got this contract, and things had started. So I mean, for the LSPs who are planning to go for this hiring a consultant, first of all, again, no hard feeling for the consultant, but I would say to the LSP that please try to do it yourself first. Okay, it's not an like a hard rock thing, I mean, or outer space thing that you cannot reach to. You just need to focus, make your people competent enough so that they can lead this by their own. If still you feel that you need, I mean, someone to support you, reach out to the market, do your homework, and you can take a better consultant from the market. There are good people in the market, but you need to ensure that you are getting a best support from this, so that the intention of getting this or and to clearing the assessment is being achieved with the best possible outcome, ideally from the LSP itself, if not with the support of the consultant.
And for all the listeners, just watch Mohammed Rahil as well. He's one of our assessors, and he's doing a great job. And of course, if you want to have an assessment with Mohammed Rahil or with Sajjad or with one of the other, I think Mohammed Hamad is here. A few people are here as well in
Yeah,
the
we
chat.
we have Muhammad Hamad and we have Abdurrahman.
Abdurrahman, yeah. So yeah, you can find them on the Gulf SQS website. Are there any other thoughts, questions, inputs to complete this session?
Yes, we have one question here.
Yeah. Can you read the question?
No, someone raised his hand,
Oh,
Mr.
somebody.
Ali Abdi,
Okay.
I think.
Ali,
Yes,
please, can
please.
you unmute yourself and just ask us, please? Thank you.
Actually, my question is, before going for final assessment, there should be a pre-assessment program from the assessor company or like that, because when we are going for final assessment, we found that some of the areas that we did not prepare, and that we what we found in the final assessment. So if there will be a pre-assessment before the final assessment, so it will be a good homework for the LSPs to get it ready. As you said that there should be you should do a homework before going for the final exam, or you should go for the higher school before going to the colleges. So that's like that. So it will give the LSPs a good good strategy, good platform to just clear the assessment in one go. This is my opinion. If it is good to implement, or it is good, nice to have feature in assessment programs.
No, I fully agree with you. And this is mainly because, I mean, if you want to prepare yourself for a Gulf SQS assessment, you need to do something like an internal audit. And that's why we said it is recommended to have one of these ISO these three, or minimum these three ISO standards implemented, because then you already have a framework for a management system, and that will definitely help you to build on that with Gulf SQS. And part of that
Right.
is having an internal audit program, which you can also call a pre-assessment, because it is as simple as the questionnaire is. So you just take the questionnaire and you go, you read through it and you say, where am I in compliance? So this is more or less like a gap assessment, right? You see where you are now in comparison to what Gulf SQAS guides you to. And then you just assess or pre-assess or internal audit your current management system, and then you start working on closing those gaps. So it is actually not more than that. And I like really what Sajjad said when he said, actually, it is quite simple. It's quite easy, but you just have to put that little bit of effort. I mean, everybody can get an engineering degree, right? But you just have to put some effort into it. And so, you know, some people need to put a little bit more effort, others need to put a little bit less effort. But on the end, with effort, with preparation, with consistency, you will definitely reach to that.
Okay.
Is that a good answer? Do you?
Yes. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Amador. The problem sometimes the companies which have got good score, they having a very excellent QHSS manager, and then he leaves the company or he transfer to another company.
Yeah.
Then they found themselves in the second assessment. They doesn't have the score, or even they cannot achieve it at all. Why? Because the one who's doing the whole system, he left, or the one who's answering the right answers and showing the right records, he left. So they cannot manage it. They cannot imagine that they have lost their score because of one person who achieved this score. That's one of the main questions. That's your key person is your QHSSE manager.
Very powerful what you just said, and very relevant as well. But you know, Sajjad, he mentioned this a couple of times, and that is commitment, management commitment. And that's also part of those ISO standards, right? Where you have to show management, or the management, they have to show commitment. And if management thinks that they can delegate everything to the EHS manager, who is then, you know, designing the system, doing everything around him. I remember, and Rahil remembers that very well, that some people were saying, yeah, the focal point is really a miskin guy. You remember, we had those discussions. He's really miskin guy because he was doing all these, you know, the whole system was on his back, and he was doing, you know, talking for the operation, talking for the logistics, talking for here, and showing all the evidences, etc., making sure that the organization gets the certificate, right? But then when he goes, there is a massive gap that falls because people were not committed, people were not involved, and there are some other reasons as well. It's not, even if you say that it is because he was a perfect guy, maybe he needed to make sure that you know, he communicates the system properly to the different stakeholders. But eventually, it's always a leadership issue, and leadership need to be involved, and also make sure that they monitor and follow up with those HSEQ managers. Sajjad, do you want to add something to this?
I think you have covered many areas already. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any other thoughts in the last couple of minutes? I know we took you a bit on a longer journey, 25 minutes, 25 additional minutes, but I see that Mohammed, he really liked it, and Sajjad also. I think all of you as well. There were a lot of people that registered, and I'm still happy with, you know, the numbers that we tick off. It's much better than we had last time, and I'm really looking forward to have even more people in the coming sessions. Yeah, I really like the session. I hope also that you liked it. Keep on following us on LinkedIn, but also on the GPCA website. There is more to come, and there are some other colleagues that will also do some activities. Again, thank you so much that you attended and that you spent all this time during this webinar. And I wish all of you a good evening or good night. Good morning if you are in some other area. And see you next time. Thank you so much and bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah.
عليكم السلام.